The hum of high-tech machinery filled the air, mingling with the scent of sterilized surfaces and fresh coffee. Dr. Tessa Blake, a brilliant yet reclusive astrophysicist, was hunched over a console, her fingers flying across the holographic keyboard. She barely noticed the world around her as she decrypted the strange signal that had recently captured her attention. "Working late again, Dr. Blake?" A smooth voice interrupted her concentration. Tessa glanced up, her sharp blue eyes meeting the mischievous gaze of Captain Jaxon Thorne. He leaned casually against the doorframe, his rugged features softened by a playful smile. "Some of us have important work to do, Captain Thorne," Tessa replied, unable to suppress a small smile. "What brings you to the lab at this hour? Missing the party in the officers' lounge?" Jaxon pushed off the doorframe and sauntered over to her workstation, his presence both magnetic and irritatingly distracting. "Maybe I was, but then I thought I'd see what our resident genius was up to. After all, you're far more interesting than a room full of bureaucrats." Tessa rolled her eyes, but felt a warmth spread across her cheeks. "Flattery won't get you anywhere, Jaxon." "Is that a challenge?" he grinned, leaning closer. "Or an invitation?" Tessa chuckled and shook her head, turning her attention back to the screen. "I found something, a signal from a distant star system. It appears to contain coordinates leading to an uncharted planet." Jackson's eyebrows shot up. "A new planet? That's big news. Why didn't you say so earlier?" "Because I was verifying the data," Tessa said, her tone professional but her eyes twinkling. "I didn't want to get anyone's hopes up without confirmation." Jaxon leaned in even closer, peering at the data on the screen. "So, do we have confirmation?" Tessa nodded. "Yes, the signal is authentic, and the coordinates are accurate. If we follow this lead, we could make one of the most significant discoveries of our time." "Looks like you just bought yourself a ticket to the next expedition," Jaxon said, his voice low and teasing. "And it just so happens that I'll be piloting that mission. Lucky me." Tessa looked at him, a mix of excitement and apprehension in her gaze. "Lucky us, then. This could change everything." Jaxon straightened up, his expression turning serious for a moment. "Tessa, are you sure about this? It's going to be dangerous." Tessa met his eyes, her resolve firm. "I'm sure. This is what I've been working towards my entire career. I'm not backing down now." A slow smile spread across Jackson's face. "That's the spirit. But just so you know, I'll be keeping an eye on you. Can't have our top scientist getting into trouble." "Is that your way of saying you care?" Tessa quipped, raising an eyebrow. "Maybe it is," Jaxon replied, his voice softening. "Maybe it is." The two shared a moment of silent understanding, the weight of the impending journey settling over them. Despite their differences, they both knew that this mission was bigger than either of them. It was a chance to explore the unknown, to make history, and perhaps to find something even more profound among the stars. As Jaxon turned to leave, he paused at the door and glanced back at Tessa. "Get some rest, Dr. Blake. We've got a big day ahead of us." Tessa watched him go, a small smile playing on her lips. "Good night, Captain Thorne." With a final nod, Jaxon disappeared down the corridor, leaving Tessa alone with her thoughts and the soft glow of the holographic screen. She took a deep breath, feeling a mix of anticipation and nervousness. The discovery of the signal was just the beginning. Tomorrow, the real adventure would begin. The research center buzzed with activity the next morning as preparations for the mission to the uncharted planet reached their peak. Scientists, engineers, and military personnel moved with purpose, ensuring every detail was perfect. The air was charged with excitement and a hint of nervousness. Dr. Tessa Blake stood in the observation deck, watching as the massive spaceship Aurora was prepared for launch. The sleek vessel, a marvel of human engineering, gleamed under the artificial lights of the hangar. She clutched her tablet, reviewing the mission protocols one last time when a familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. "Ready to conquer the unknown, Dr. Blake?" Captain Jaxon Thorne asked, his tone light but his eyes serious. Tessa turned to face him, her own nerves masked by a confident smile. "Ready as I'll ever be. How about you, Captain? Got your lucky charm?" Jaxon chuckled, tapping the small medallion that hung around his neck. "Always, and I've got the best crew in the galaxy. What could possibly go wrong?" Tessa raised an eyebrow. "You know saying that is practically inviting trouble, right?" He grinned. "What's life without a little excitement?" As they headed to the ship, the rest of the crew fell in line, each member carrying the weight of their individual responsibilities. Among them were Dr. Mei Chen, a biologist with a sharp mind and a dry sense of humor, Lieutenant Samara Reyes, the ship's no-nonsense engineer, and Sergeant Owen Harris, a seasoned soldier with a protective streak. Once aboard the Aurora, the crew took their positions. Tessa settled into the science station, her fingers dancing over the controls as she brought up the star maps and coordinates for their journey. Jaxon slid into the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls. "All systems go?" he asked, glancing over his shoulder at Tessa. "All systems go," she confirmed, her voice steady despite the flutter of anticipation in her chest. The countdown began, and the ship vibrated with the power of its engines coming to life. As the numbers ticked down, the crew exchanged final glances, a mix of determination and trepidation on their faces. 3, 2, 1, liftoff. The launch operator's voice echoed through the ship. The Aurora surged upwards, breaking free of Earth's gravity and soaring into the vast expanse of space. The transition was smooth, a testament to the skill of the engineers and Jaxon's expert piloting. The view from the cockpit was breathtaking, stars and planets stretching out before them in an infinite tapestry. "We're officially on our way," Jaxon announced, his voice filled with a blend of pride and excitement. "Next stop, Elysium." Tessa couldn't help but smile. Let's hope it's as welcoming as its name suggests. The journey to the distant star system took several days. During this time, the crew settled into a routine, balancing their duties with moments of camaraderie. Tessa and Jaxon often found themselves working closely together, their banter easing the tension of the unknown. One evening, Tessa was alone in the observation deck, staring out at the endless void. She was lost in thought when Jaxon entered, carrying 2 steaming mugs. "Thought you might need a break," he said, handing her a mug of coffee. Tessa accepted it gratefully. "Thanks, I needed this." They stood in silence for a moment, sipping their coffee and gazing at the stars. Finally, Jaxon broke the silence. "You know, Tessa, I was serious about what I said. I do care, about the mission, the crew, and about you." Tessa looked at him, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. "I care too, Jaxon, about all of it." He took a step closer, his gaze intense. "This mission, it's dangerous, but knowing you're here, it makes it worth it." Tessa felt her heart skip a beat. She reached out and placed a hand on his arm. "We'll get through this, together." Their moment was interrupted by the sudden blare of alarms. The ship shuddered, and Tessa's tablet flashed with urgent warnings. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice tense. Jaxon quickly assessed the situation, his expression hardening. We've hit an unexpected asteroid field. Everyone to your stations." The crew scrambled as the Aurora was buffeted by the debris. Jaxon's hands flew over the controls, maneuvering the ship with expert precision. Tessa relayed data and calculations, helping him navigate the treacherous field. After what felt like an eternity, they cleared the asteroid field, the alarms silencing as the ship stabilized. The crew let out a collective breath of relief. "Nice flying, Captain," Tessa said, her voice laced with admiration. Jaxon gave her a tired but grateful smile. "Couldn't have done it without you, Dr. Blake." As the crew resumed their duties, Tessa and Jaxon shared a look that spoke volumes. They were in this together, come what may. The journey to Elysium was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, side by side. As the Aurora drew closer to Elysium, the anticipation among the crew was palpable. The planet's surface was unlike anything they had seen before, covered in iridescent landscapes that shimmered with otherworldly beauty. Tessa Blake stood in the observation deck, her eyes fixed on the planet below. Beside her, Jaxon Thorne adjusted the ship's trajectory for their descent. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" Jaxon remarked, his voice breaking the silence. Tessa nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "It's incredible. The data we collected suggests that the planet's surface is rich in rare minerals and potentially habitable. We need to be cautious, though. We have no idea what we might encounter down there." "Understood," Jaxon replied, his tone serious. "We'll proceed with caution." The ship descended through Elysium's atmosphere, the friction causing the hull to glow as they penetrated the thick, multicolored clouds. The crew watched in awe as they broke through the cloud cover and got their first clear view of the planet's surface. Towering crystal formations sparkled in the sunlight, and vast, lush forests stretched as far as the eye could see. "Landing sequence initiated," Jaxon announced. "Everyone, brace yourselves." The Aurora touched down smoothly in a clearing near the edge of one of the crystal forests. The crew immediately set to work, running diagnostics and preparing for their first expedition onto the planet's surface. Tessa joined Jaxon at the airlock, adjusting her suit and checking her equipment. "Ready, Captain?" "Always," Jaxon replied with a grin. "Let's see what Elysium has in store for us." As the airlock doors hissed open, a rush of cool, fragrant air greeted them. The landscape was even more stunning up close, with vibrant flora and fauna unlike anything on Earth or Mars. Tessa's scientific curiosity was piqued as she scanned the area with her portable analyzer. "These readings are off the charts," she murmured. "The biodiversity here is astounding." Jaxon, meanwhile, kept a watchful eye on their surroundings, his hand hovering near his sidearm. "Let's stay focused and stick together. We don't know what kind of wildlife we might encounter." The crew moved cautiously through the forest, their senses heightened. As they ventured deeper, they came across a series of strange, ancient structures partially hidden by the dense vegetation. The architecture was unlike anything they had seen before, with intricate carvings and symbols adorning the walls. "These look like remnants of a highly advanced civilization," Tessa observed, her eyes wide with wonder. "We need to document everything." Jaxon nodded, his expression serious. "Agreed. Let's set up a perimeter and start analyzing the structures." As they worked, Tessa couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the sheer scale and complexity of the ruins. She and Jaxon often found themselves working side by side, their professional rapport deepening with each shared discovery. During a brief break, Tessa and Jaxon sat together on a fallen log, their conversation too, turning to lighter topics. Jaxon regaled her with tales of his previous missions, his easygoing nature putting her at ease. "You've been on some incredible adventures," Tessa said, laughing at one of his stories. "I can see why you're so confident." Jaxon shrugged modestly. "It's all part of the job. But this mission, it's something special, and having you here makes it even more interesting." Tessa blushed, but before she could respond, their comm units crackled to life. "Captain Thorne, Dr. Blake, we've found something." Mei Chen's voice came through urgently. "You need to see this." They hurried to the site where Mei and the others were gathered. In front of them was a large, circular portal embedded in the ground, its surface shimmering with a strange energy. "It appears to be some kind of gateway," Mei explained. "We haven't been able to activate it, but the symbols suggest it might be a transportation device." Tessa's mind raced with possibilities. If this is a gateway, it could lead to other parts of the planet or even other worlds. We need to figure out how to activate it. As they studied the portal, Tessa and Jaxon couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of a monumental discovery. The stakes were high, but so were the potential rewards. They were about to unlock the secrets of a lost civilization and perhaps uncover something that could change the course of human history. Their flirtatious banter was replaced by focused determination as they worked together, deciphering the symbols and piecing together the puzzle of the ancient gateway. Tessa's analytical mind and Jaxon's instinctive problem-solving skills complemented each other perfectly, driving them closer to unlocking Elysium's greatest secret. With each passing hour, their bond grew stronger, rooted in mutual respect and shared purpose. As they stood before the mysterious portal, ready to take the next step in their journey, they knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, united by their courage and curiosity. The ancient portal loomed before them, its surface shimmering with a strange ethereal energy. Dr. Tessa Blake and Captain Jaxon Thorne stood side by side, their faces illuminated by the soft, pulsing light emanating from the symbols etched into the portal's surface. "Okay, let's review what we know," Tessa said, her voice steady despite the excitement bubbling within her. "The symbols suggest this is a transportation device, but we haven't figured out how to activate it." Jaxon nodded, his eyes scanning the intricate carvings. "We've tried everything we can think of. Maybe there's something we're missing." Tessa crouched down, her fingers tracing the lines of the symbols. "These symbols are similar to the ones we saw in the hidden chamber. If we can decipher their meaning, we might be able to activate the portal. Mei Chen joined them, holding a tablet filled with notes and scans. I've been cross-referencing the symbols with the database we created. There are some similarities to ancient Earth languages, but the structure is unique. Let's focus on the common elements, Tessa suggested. There might be a pattern we're not seeing. The team worked tirelessly, their minds racing as they pieced together the puzzle. Hours passed, and just as fatigue began to set in, Tessa's eyes widened with realization. "Wait a minute," she said, pointing to a cluster of symbols. "These symbols, they represent elements. If we align them in the right sequence, it might create a reaction." Jaxon leaned in, his excitement mirroring hers. "It's worth a shot. Let's do it." With careful precision, Tessa and Mai rearranged the symbols, aligning them according to their elemental properties. As they made the final adjustment, the portal's surface glowed brighter, and the air around them seemed to hum with energy. "Everyone, stand back," Jaxon instructed, his voice tense with anticipation. The ground beneath them vibrated, and a beam of light shot up from the center of the portal, forming a shimmering vortex. The team watched in awe as the vortex stabilized, creating a swirling gateway. "It's working," Tessa breathed, her eyes wide with amazement. Jaxon grinned, his hand resting on the hilt of his sidearm. "Looks like we just opened a door to the unknown." The crew gathered their equipment, their excitement tinged with nervousness. Tessa and Jaxon led the way, stepping cautiously into the vortex. The sensation was unlike anything they had ever experienced, a blend of weightlessness and disorientation. When the light faded, they found themselves in a vast, cavernous chamber, its walls lined with more of the ancient symbols. The air was cool and crisp, filled with the faint scent of unfamiliar flora. "This is incredible," Mei whispered, her eyes darting around the chamber. "We've just stepped into another part of the planet." "Or another world," Tessa added, her mind racing with possibilities. As they explored the chamber, they discovered more evidence of the advanced civilization that had once thrived on Elysium. Complex machinery, alien artifacts, and detailed murals depicting the history and culture of the Elysians filled the space. "We need to document everything," Tessa said, her voice tinged with awe. "This could be the key to understanding their technology and history." Jaxon approached one of the murals, his fingers brushing against the smooth surface. "These people, they were incredibly advanced. But what happened to them?" "That's what we're here to find out," Tessa replied, joining him. "There must be answers somewhere in these ruins." Their moment of discovery was interrupted by a sudden, low rumble. The ground beneath them shook, and the chamber's walls began to vibrate. "What's happening?" Mei asked, her voice filled with alarm. Tessa's eyes widened as she realized the implications. "The portal. It might be destabilizing. We need to get back now." The team rushed back to the vortex, but the shaking intensified, and chunks of the ceiling began to crumble. Jaxon grabbed Tessa's hand, pulling her close as they navigated the collapsing chamber. "Stay with me," he shouted over the noise, his grip firm and reassuring. They reached the vortex just as the chamber began to cave in. With a final desperate leap, they plunged back through the swirling energy, emerging on the other side just as the portal closed behind them. Breathing heavily, they collapsed onto the forest floor, their bodies aching from the exertion. The ruins were now silent, the portal sealed once more. "That was too close," Jaxon said, his voice filled with relief. "But we made it." Tessa nodded, her heart still racing. "And we have so much to learn. This is just the beginning." As the crew regrouped and assessed their findings, Tessa and Jaxon shared a look of determination. They had unlocked a gateway to the unknown, and with it, the potential to uncover the secrets of an ancient civilization. But with each discovery came new challenges and dangers, and they would face them together, united by their courage and their growing bond. The crew of the Aurora spent the next few days analyzing their findings from the ancient chamber. The ruins were a treasure trove of knowledge, revealing glimpses of the Elysians' advanced technology and culture. Dr. Tessa Blake was in her element, tirelessly decoding symbols and cross-referencing data. Captain Jaxon Thorne watched her from a distance, his admiration growing with each passing day. Despite the intensity of their situation, Tessa's passion and intelligence shone through, captivating him more than he'd care to admit. Tessa, you need to take a break, Jaxon said, approaching her workstation. You've been at this for hours. Tessa looked up, her eyes tired but determined. I can't stop now, Jaxon. We're on the verge of a breakthrough. These symbols, they might explain how the portal works. Jaxon placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. I know, but you won't be any good to us if you burn out. Let's take a walk. Clear your head. Tessa hesitated, then sighed and nodded. All right, but just for a few minutes. They left the ship and walked through the shimmering crystal forest, the alien landscape providing a surreal backdrop to their conversation. The air was cool, and the scent of strange flowers filled their senses. You've been pushing yourself hard, Jaxon said, breaking the silence. I get it. This is important, but so is your well-being. Tessa smiled faintly. I appreciate your concern, Jaxon. It's just, this is everything I've ever worked for. Discovering an advanced civilization, understanding their technology, it's a dream come true. And you're doing an incredible job, he replied, his voice softening. But don't forget to take care of yourself. We need you at your best. Tessa stopped and looked at him, her eyes reflecting the alien light. Thank you, Jaxon, for everything. You've been a rock for all of us. Jaxon chuckled. Just doing my job, but it helps having you by my side. Their moment was interrupted by the sudden crackle of their comm units. Captain Thorne, Dr. Blake, we've got a situation. Lieutenant Samara Reyes's voice came through, tense with urgency. Jaxon and Tessa exchanged a look before sprinting back to the ship. When they arrived, the rest of the crew was gathered around a large monitor displaying alarming readings. What's going on? Jaxon asked, his voice commanding. Mei Chen pointed to the screen. We've detected an energy surge from the ruins. It's similar to the portal's activation, but much stronger. It could destabilize the entire area. Tessa's eyes widened. We need to investigate. If the portal is reacting to something, it could be a sign of an impending event. Jaxon nodded. All right, gear up. We're heading back to the ruins. The team moved quickly, their previous camaraderie replaced by focused urgency. They reached the ancient chamber to find the portal shimmering erratically, the symbols glowing with an intense light. These readings are off the charts, Tessa said, scanning the area with her analyzer. Something is triggering the portal, but I can't pinpoint what. Jaxon kept a watchful eye on their surroundings. Stay alert. We don't know what's causing this. As they examined the portal, a low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. The ground trembled, and the portal's energy surged, creating a blinding flash of light. When the light faded, they found themselves face to face with a group of armored figures. At their head was Commander Ares Draven, a ruthless Martian officer with a reputation for stopping at nothing to achieve his goals. Well, 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 Draven sneered, his eyes gleaming with malice. What do we have here? A bunch of Earth and Mars scientists playing with things they don't understand. Jaxon stepped forward, his hand on his sidearm. Draven, what are you doing here? Draven smirked. I could ask you the same thing, Thorne, but it doesn't matter. That artifact belongs to us now. Tessa's heart raced as she realized the danger they were in. You can't just take it. We don't even fully understand its capabilities. Draven's expression hardened. That's where you're wrong, Dr. Blake. We've been studying these ruins for years, and now that we have the portal, we can unlock its true potential. Step aside, or face the consequences. Jaxon drew his weapon, his stance protective. Over my dead body. Draven's soldiers raised their guns, tension crackling in the air. That can be arranged. Before anyone could react, the ground shook violently, and the portal's energy surged again, enveloping everyone in a blinding light. When the light faded, they found themselves in a different chamber, the air thick with the scent of ancient machinery and ozone. What just happened? May asked, her voice shaky. Tessa quickly scanned the area. The portal. It transported us somewhere else. We need to figure out where we are and how to get back. Draven looked around, his expression a mix of frustration and curiosity. This isn't over, Thorne, not by a long shot. As the team regrouped, the realization hit them. They were now deep within the heart of Elysium's secrets, and the stakes were higher than ever. With enemies on all sides and the ancient technology at their fingertips, they had to navigate the dangers of the unknown, relying on their wits and each other to survive. Jaxon turned to Tessa, his resolve unwavering. We'll get through this, together. just like always. Tessa nodded, her fear giving way to determination. Together. As they ventured further into the alien chamber, the mysteries of Elysium beckoned, promising both peril and discovery in equal measure. The ancient chamber hummed with energy, the air thick with the scent of ancient machinery and ozone. Dr. Tessa Blake, Captain Jaxon Thorne, and their team found themselves transported to an unknown part of Elysium, deeper within the planet's mysterious infrastructure. Commander Ares Draven and his soldiers stood opposite them, tension crackling in the air. Jaxon kept his weapon trained on Draven, his eyes scanning the room for any sign of an escape. "We need to find a way out of here," he muttered to Tessa, his voice low and urgent. Tessa nodded, her mind racing as she took in their surroundings. "Agreed. There must be another portal or an exit somewhere." Draven sneered, his gaze shifting between Jaxon and Tessa. "You think you can just walk away? This is far from over." "Everyone, spread out and look for an exit," Jaxon ordered, ignoring Draven's taunt. "Stay together and stay alert." The team moved cautiously through the cavernous space, their footsteps echoing off the walls. Strange symbols glowed faintly, casting eerie shadows that danced in the dim light. Tessa and Jaxon stayed close, their bond growing stronger with each passing moment of shared danger. As they rounded a corner, Tessa's portable analyzer beeped, indicating a nearby energy source. "Over here," she called, waving the others over. The team gathered around a large, ancient console embedded in the wall. The console's surface was covered in symbols and glowing panels, its purpose unclear but promising. "Can you make sense of this?" Jaxon asked, his eyes on the console. Tessa examined the symbols, her fingers brushing lightly over the controls. "I think so. These symbols are similar to the ones we saw earlier. If I can activate it, we might be able to open another portal, or at least find a way out." Draven and his soldiers watched warily, their weapons still at the ready. "Don't try anything funny, Blake," Draven warned. "We're all in this together now." Ignoring Draven, Tessa focused on the console, her mind working rapidly. She adjusted the controls, aligning the symbols in a sequence that she hoped would activate the device. With a final press, the console hummed to life, and a holographic map of the underground network appeared. "This is it," Tessa breathed, her eyes scanning the map. "This shows the layout of the entire underground complex. There's another portal not far from here." "Lead the way," Jaxon said, his hand gently resting on her back. As they navigated the winding tunnels, the ground beneath them shook again, a low rumble that sent dust and debris falling from the ceiling. The instability of the ancient infrastructure added a sense of urgency to their mission. "Stay close," Jaxon urged, his protective instincts kicking in. They reached the chamber housing the second portal, its design similar to the first but more intact. Tessa quickly set to work, her fingers flying over the controls as she decoded the activation sequence. "How much longer?" Jaxon asked, his eyes darting nervously. "Just a few more seconds," Tessa replied, her concentration unbroken. As she made the final adjustment, the portal's surface shimmered, forming a stable vortex. The team prepared to step through, but Draven's voice rang out, stopping them. "Not so fast," Draven sneered, raising his weapon. "We go first." Jaxon stepped protectively in front of Tessa, his weapon aimed at Draven. "You're not in charge here, Draven. We all go together, or no one goes at all." Tension hung in the air, but before the standoff could escalate, the ground shook violently and a section of the ceiling collapsed. The chamber filled with dust and debris, and in the chaos, Tessa grabbed Jaxon's arm, pulling him toward the portal. "Now!" she shouted. The team leaped through the vortex, the unstable chamber collapsing behind them. They emerged in a different part of Elysium, a vast, open cavern filled with bioluminescent plants and flowing streams. The air was cool and fresh, a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere of the ruins. "We made it," Mai said, her voice filled with relief. Jaxon scanned the area, ensuring everyone was accounted for. "Let's find a safe place to regroup and figure out our next move." As they set up a temporary camp, Tessa and Jaxon took a moment to catch their breath. The tension between them had shifted, the shared danger forging a deeper connection. "Thanks for having my back," Tessa said, her voice soft. "Always," Jaxon replied, his eyes meeting hers. "We're in this together, remember?" Tessa smiled, feeling a sense of warmth and security despite their perilous situation. "I know. and I'm grateful for that. Their moment was interrupted by the sound of footsteps. Draven and his soldiers emerged from the shadows, their expressions grim. "This isn't over," Draven said, his tone menacing. Jaxon stepped forward, his jaw set. "We're all stranded here, Draven. We need to work together if we want to survive." Draven's eyes narrowed, but he nodded reluctantly. "Agreed, but don't think for a second that I've forgotten our mission." As the uneasy alliance took shape, the team knew that their survival depended on their ability to navigate both the dangers of Elysium and the treacherous dynamics within their group. The secrets of the planet beckoned, and with each step they moved closer to unlocking the mysteries that could either save them or lead to their doom. United by necessity and driven by curiosity, Tessa and Jaxon stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, their bond growing stronger with each passing moment. Together, they would uncover the secrets of Elysium, forging a path through the unknown and ensuring that humanity's legacy would endure among the stars. The bioluminescent cavern cast an otherworldly glow, illuminating the tension between the two factions. Dr. Tessa Blake and Captain Jaxon Thorne stood with their crew, facing off against Commander Ares Draven and his soldiers. Despite the uneasy truce, the air crackled with mistrust. Jaxon turned to his team, his voice calm but firm. "We need to set up a perimeter and secure the area. May, see if you can find any food sources. Samara, check our equipment and make sure everything is operational." The crew nodded and set to work, their movements efficient and precise. Tessa joined May, her mind still racing with the implications of their situation. "Any luck?" Tessa asked, kneeling beside May as she examined the local flora. May nodded, her expression thoughtful. "These plants seem to be edible, and there's a freshwater stream nearby. We should be able to sustain ourselves for a while." "Good," Tessa replied, her gaze shifting to Draven's group. "Let's hope we won't need to stay here long." As night fell, the cavern's bioluminescence intensified, casting everything in a glowing light. The crew gathered around a small fire, the warmth a welcome comfort in the cool air. Draven's soldiers kept their distance, but the animosity was palpable. Jaxon sat beside Tessa, their shoulders brushing. "We'll get through this," he murmured, his voice reassuring. Tessa nodded, drawing strength from his presence. "I know. We just need to stay focused." As the team settled in for the night, Tessa's thoughts wandered to the ancient symbols and the knowledge they had yet to uncover. The secrets of Elysium were tantalizingly close, but the threat from Draven and the instability of the ruins added layers of complexity to their mission. In the early hours of the morning, Tessa awoke to the sound of hushed voices. She sat up, her senses alert, and saw Jaxon and Draven engaged in a tense conversation at the edge of the camp. "I don't trust you, Thorne," Draven was saying, his tone low and dangerous. "But we're stuck here together, so we might as well make the best of it." Jackson's expression was unreadable. "Agreed, but any sign of betrayal, and all bets are off." Tessa approached them, her presence diffusing some of the tension. "We need to work together if we want to survive and uncover the secrets of this planet. Fighting amongst ourselves won't help anyone." Draven eyed her warily, but he nodded. "Fine, but remember, my priority is securing any technology that can benefit Mars." Tessa's eyes flashed with determination. "And mine is understanding this civilization and ensuring our safe return. We don't have to be enemies, Draven." The commander's gaze softened slightly. "We'll see, Dr. Blake." As the days passed, the two groups managed an uneasy coexistence. They explored the cavern and its surroundings, documenting the flora and fauna and analyzing the ancient technology. Despite their differences, a sense of camaraderie began to develop, born from their shared struggle. One afternoon, while examining a particularly complex set of symbols, Tessa made a breakthrough. "I think I've found something," she called out, drawing everyone's attention. Jaxon and May joined her, their expressions eager. "What is it?" Jaxon asked. Tessa pointed to the symbols. "These markings indicate a central hub, a place where all the knowledge and technology of the Elysians is stored. If we can find it, we might be able to understand their technology and find a way back home." Draven's eyes lit up with interest. "Where is this hub located?" "According to these symbols, it's deep within the underground network," Tessa replied. "We'll need to navigate through a series of tunnels and chambers to reach it." Jackson's hand rested on her shoulder. Then that's our next objective. Let's prepare for the journey. The teams gathered their supplies and set out, navigating the labyrinthine tunnels with caution. The air grew colder as they descended deeper into the underground network, the walls adorned with more of the intricate symbols. As they progressed, Tessa and Jaxon walked side by side, their connection growing stronger with each step. Despite the dangers, they found comfort in each other's presence, their bond a beacon of hope in the darkness. "How are you holding up?" Jaxon asked, his voice gentle. Tessa smiled, her eyes meeting his. "Better, knowing you're here." Their moment was interrupted by a sudden noise, a low growl that echoed through the tunnel. The team froze, their weapons at the ready. "What was that?" Samara whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Before anyone could answer, a massive creature lunged from the shadows, its form obscured by the dim light. Chaos erupted as the team fought to defend themselves, their weapons firing in the confined space. Jaxon and Tessa moved instinctively, their actions coordinated as they faced the creature. Jaxon fired at its legs, while Tessa used her analyzer to find a weak spot. "Focus your fire on its right side," Tessa shouted, her voice cutting through the din. The team followed her instructions, and the creature let out a pained roar before collapsing. The tunnel fell silent, the only sound their heavy breathing. "Is everyone okay?" Jaxon asked, his eyes scanning the group. A few nods and murmurs of assent followed, and Tessa let out a relieved sigh. "We need to be more careful. There could be more of these creatures." Draven's expression was grim. "Agreed. Let's keep moving." They pressed on, their resolve strengthened by the encounter. The journey was arduous, but their determination never wavered. Finally, after hours of navigating the treacherous tunnels, they reached a massive chamber, its walls lined with glowing symbols and advanced machinery. "This is it," Tessa whispered, awe in her voice. "The central hub." As they stepped into the chamber, a sense of anticipation filled the air. The secrets of Elysium lay before them, waiting to be uncovered. And with each discovery, they moved closer to finding a way home. United by their shared mission and driven by their curiosity, Tessa, Jaxon, and their team faced the challenges ahead with unwavering resolve. Together, they would unlock the mysteries of Elysium, forging a path through the unknown and ensuring that humanity's legacy would endure among the stars. The central hub of Elysium was a marvel of ancient technology, its vast chamber filled with intricate machinery and glowing symbols. Dr. Tessa Blake, Captain Jaxon Thorne, and their team stood in awe, their eyes taking in the incredible sight before them. "This place is incredible," Mei Chen said, her voice hushed with reverence. "It's like nothing we've ever seen." Tessa nodded, her fingers brushing over the controls of an ancient console. "If we can decipher the technology here, we might be able to unlock the full potential of the Elysians' knowledge and find a way back home." Jaxon placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure it out, Tessa. Together." As the team began to explore the chamber, Commander Ares Draven and his soldiers kept a watchful eye on their every move. Despite the uneasy truce, the tension between the groups was palpable. Tessa focused on the console, her mind racing with possibilities. These symbols, they seemed to indicate a power source. If we can activate it, we might be able to access the Elysians' database. "Let's do it," Jaxon said, his voice filled with determination. As Tessa worked, the ground beneath them shook slightly, a reminder of the planet's instability. She pressed a series of symbols, and the console hummed to life, its screens displaying streams of data in a language she was beginning to understand. "It's working," Tessa said, her eyes wide with excitement. "We're accessing their database." The team gathered around, watching as the screens filled with information about the Elysians' history, technology, and culture. It was a treasure trove of knowledge, each discovery more astounding than the last. "This is incredible," Mai said, her voice filled with awe. "We could learn so much from this." Jaxon nodded, his gaze shifting to Draven. "Let's hope everyone here is willing to share." Draven's eyes narrowed, but he remained silent, his soldiers tense and ready. As Tessa continued to decode the data, she stumbled upon something alarming. "Wait a minute, this can't be right." "What is it?" Jaxon asked, his concern evident. Tessa's face paled as she read the information. "These readings suggest that the energy source powering this hub is unstable. If we don't deactivate it, it could cause a catastrophic meltdown." Draven stepped forward, his expression hardening. We can't afford to lose this opportunity. We need that technology. At what cost? Tessa retorted, her voice filled with anger. If this place goes up, we'll all be buried here. Before the argument could escalate, a series of loud beeps echoed through the chamber, followed by the appearance of a holographic figure. The figure was tall and regal, with an air of authority that commanded attention. Greetings, the figure said, its voice resonating through the chamber. I am the overseer of Elysium. Who dares to awaken the power of this sacred place? Tessa stepped forward, her voice steady. We are explorers from Earth and Mars. We seek to understand your civilization and learn from your technology. The overseer's gaze swept over the group, its expression unreadable. You have accessed the knowledge of Elysium, but with great knowledge comes great responsibility. The power you have unleashed is unstable. You must deactivate it to prevent catastrophe. How do we do that? Jaxon asked, his voice urgent. The overseer raised a hand, and a series of symbols appeared on the console. Follow these instructions to safely deactivate the energy source. But be warned, there are those among you who seek to use this power for their own gain. As the hologram faded, Tessa turned to the team. We need to act fast. May, Samara, follow these instructions and deactivate the power source. Jaxon, keep an eye on Draven. As the team sprang into action, Draven's eyes narrowed and he signaled to his soldiers. Enough of this. We take control now. Before anyone could react, Draven's soldiers raised their weapons, aiming them at Tessa and the others. Step away from the console, Draven ordered, his voice cold and commanding. Jaxon stepped protectively in front of Tessa, his weapon drawn. You're making a big mistake, Draven. Draven sneered. The only mistake here is thinking you could outsmart me. This technology belongs to Mars, and I will do whatever it takes to secure it. As the standoff continued, the ground beneath them shook more violently, and the chamber's walls began to crack. The instability of the energy source was becoming more apparent, and time was running out. May, Samara, now! Tessa shouted, her voice filled with urgency. May and Samara moved quickly, following the overseer's instructions to deactivate the energy source. The symbols on the console glowed brightly, and the hum of the machinery grew louder. Draven's soldiers advanced, but Jaxon and the rest of the team stood their ground, ready to defend themselves. The tension was at its breaking point when a loud alarm echoed through the chamber. The energy source is reaching critical levels, the overseer's voice warned. You must deactivate it now, or face annihilation. In a desperate bid to save themselves, Tessa and Mai worked frantically, their fingers flying over the controls. The chamber's shaking intensified, and debris began to fall from the ceiling. Almost there, May muttered, her voice strained. With a final press of the controls, the console emitted a low hum, and the symbols dimmed. The ground stopped shaking, and the alarms ceased. The energy source was deactivated, and the chamber stabilized. Draven's soldiers lowered their weapons, their expressions a mix of relief and frustration. Draven himself looked furious, but he knew he had been outmaneuvered. This isn't over, Draven spat, his eyes burning with anger. You're right, Tessa replied, her voice steady. It's just beginning, and if you want to survive, you'll work with us, not against us. As the team regrouped and assessed the situation, Tessa and Jaxon shared a look of determination. They had faced betrayal and danger, but they had also discovered the incredible potential of Elysium's technology. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but they were ready to face them together. United by their shared mission and driven by their curiosity, Tessa, Jaxon, and their team stood ready to unlock the mysteries of Elysium, forging a path through the unknown and ensuring that humanity's legacy would endure among the stars. The central hub of Elysium was now calm, but the tension between the explorers and Draven's soldiers remained palpable. Dr. Tessa Blake and Captain Jaxon Thorne had managed to deactivate the unstable energy source, but they knew their challenges were far from over. As the team regrouped, Tessa and Jaxon exchanged a glance. The journey had taken its toll, but their determination remained unwavering. We need to figure out our next move, Jaxon said, his voice filled with resolve. Draven, you and your men need to decide. Are you with us or against us? Draven's eyes flashed with anger, but he knew he had no choice. Fine, we'll work together, but the technology we find here belongs to Mars. Tessa stepped forward, her expression fierce. The knowledge we uncover here belongs to all of humanity. We need to share it if we want to survive and thrive. Reluctantly, Draven nodded. Agreed, for now. With the uneasy alliance in place, the team began to explore the depths of the central hub. The chamber was filled with intricate machinery, holographic displays, and ancient artifacts, each one offering a glimpse into the advanced civilization that had once thrived on Elysium. These machines, they're centuries ahead of anything we have, May said, her voice filled with awe. If we can understand them, it could revolutionize our technology. As Tessa examined a holographic display, she discovered a series of encrypted files. This looks like a database of their most advanced technologies. If we can decrypt it, we might find a way to harness their power without risking another meltdown. Let's get to work, Jaxon said, his eyes scanning the chamber. We'll need all the help we can get. As the team worked tirelessly, decrypting files and analyzing the ancient technology, a sense of purpose united them. They were on the brink of a monumental breakthrough, one that could change the course of human history. Hours turned into days as they delved deeper into the Elysians' knowledge. The more they learned, the more they realized the potential and the danger of the technology at their fingertips. We've uncovered enough to make significant advancements, Tessa said, her voice filled with excitement, but there's still so much more to learn. Jaxon placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression serious. We need to be careful. The Elysians' technology is powerful, but it comes with risks. We can't afford another disaster. As they worked, the ground beneath them began to tremble once more. The ancient machinery hummed to life, and a low rumble echoed through the chamber. What's happening? Samara asked, her eyes wide with fear. Tessa's eyes scanned the data on her console. The energy source is reactivating. Someone must have triggered it. All eyes turned to Draven, who stood near a control panel, his expression unreadable. What did you do? Jaxon demanded, his voice filled with anger. Draven's eyes narrowed. I didn't touch anything. It must be an automated system. The ground shook more violently, and the machinery around them began to spark and crackle. The ancient hub was becoming unstable once more. We need to get out of here, Jaxon said, his voice urgent. Now. The team scrambled to gather their equipment, but before they could move, a series of large, armored figures emerged from the shadows. They were Elysians, their expressions stern, and their weapons aimed at the intruders. You have violated the sanctity of this place, one of the Elysians said, his voice resonating with authority. You must leave or face the consequences. Tessa stepped forward, her heart pounding. We mean no harm. We only seek to understand your technology and ensure our survival. The Elysians exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. You have shown respect for our knowledge, the leader said. But you must prove your intentions. Restore the balance you have disrupted, and we will allow you to leave. The ground sea continued to shake, and Tessa knew they had no choice. We need to stabilize the energy source, she said, her voice firm. Everyone, follow my lead. With the Elysians watching, the team worked together to deactivate the reactivating energy source. Tessa's fingers flew over the controls, her mind racing as she deciphered the complex sequences. Jaxon and Mai provided support, their eyes scanning for any signs of further instability. Minutes felt like hours, but finally, the machinery hummed softly, and the ground ceased its trembling. The energy source was stabilized once more. The Elysian leader nodded approvingly. You have proven your intentions. You may take what you have learned and leave this place. As the team prepared to depart, Tessa approached the Elysian leader. Thank you for your understanding. We will use your knowledge wisely. The leader's expression softened. Remember, with great knowledge comes great responsibility. Use it to better your world, and you will honor our legacy. With the knowledge and technology they had gathered, the team made their way back through the tunnels, emerging into the bioluminescent cavern. The journey back to the Aurora was filled with a sense of accomplishment and relief. As they boarded the ship, Jaxon turned to Tessa, his eyes filled with admiration. We did it. Together. Tessa smiled, feeling a sense of unity and purpose. Yes, we did. And now, we have the knowledge to make a real difference. As the Aurora lifted off, leaving Elysium behind, the team knew that their journey was far from over. They had uncovered the secrets of an ancient civilization, forged alliances, and faced incredible dangers. But they had also discovered the strength of their bonds and the power of their shared mission. United by their experiences and driven by their curiosity, Tessa, Jaxon, and their team faced the future with hope and determination. The mysteries of Elysium had been unlocked, and with them, the promise of a brighter tomorrow for all of humanity. The spaceship Aurora cut through the silent expanse of space, its crew a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. They had faced unimaginable dangers on Elysium, but they had also uncovered knowledge that could propel humanity into a new era. Dr. Tessa Blake and Captain Jaxon Thorne stood on the observation deck, watching the stars blur into streaks of light as the ship accelerated towards Earth. "We've been through a lot," Jaxon said, his voice breaking the comfortable silence. Tessa nodded, her gaze fixed on the stars. "And we've achieved so much. The data we've gathered, it could change everything." Jaxon turned to her, his eyes reflecting the distant starlight. "And it's all thanks to you. Your determination, your brilliance, you never gave up, even when things looked bleak." Tessa smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental controls. "I couldn't have done it without you, Jaxon. You kept us safe, kept us focused. We make a pretty good team." He took a step closer, his expression serious. "We do, and I don't want that to change once we're back on Earth." Tessa's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Jaxon said, his voice softer, "that I want us to keep working together, to keep exploring, keep discovering, and maybe more than that." Tessa felt a rush of emotions, hope, fear, excitement. "I'd like that too," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Their moment was interrupted by Mei Chen's voice over the intercom. "Captain Thorne, Dr. Blake, we're approaching Earth. You might want to get to the bridge." As they made their way to the bridge, Tessa felt a sense of anticipation and uncertainty. They had brought back incredible knowledge, but how would it be received? What changes would it bring? The Earth loomed large on the view screen, a beautiful blue and green marble suspended in the blackness of space. As the Aurora D ascended through the atmosphere, the crew prepared for re-entry, their minds racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. When they touched down at the Mars-Earth Joint Space Research Center, they were met with a flurry of activity. Scientists, government officials, and reporters swarmed the landing site, eager to hear about their journey and discoveries. Draven's soldiers disembarked first, their expressions guarded but cooperative. Draven himself gave a curt nod to Tessa and Jaxon before heading off to debrief with his superiors. The uneasy alliance had held, and now it was time to share what they had learned. Tessa and Jaxon were ushered into a large conference room where they were greeted with applause and cheers. The room was filled with familiar faces, colleagues, friends, and high-ranking officials from both Earth and Mars. "Dr. Blake, Captain Thorne," began Dr. Elena Ramirez, the director of the research center, "your mission has been a resounding success. The knowledge and technology you've brought back will revolutionize our understanding of the universe and our place in it." Tessa felt a swell of pride as she addressed the assembly. The Elysians were an incredibly advanced civilization. Their technology, their knowledge, it's beyond anything we've ever seen, but it comes with great responsibility. We must use it wisely to benefit all of humanity. Jaxon nodded in agreement. "We faced many dangers, but we also discovered the strength of working together. The challenges we overcame on Elysium showed us that unity is our greatest asset." The presentation continued, with detailed reports and data analysis. The room buzzed with excitement as the implications of their discoveries sank in. New projects were proposed, collaborations between Earth and Mars were solidified, and the future seemed brighter than ever. After the debriefing, Tessa and Jaxon found a quiet moment to themselves. They stood outside, looking up at the stars that had guided them on their journey. "So, what's next?" Jaxon asked, his tone playful but serious. Tessa smiled. "There's so much more to explore, so many more mysteries to uncover, but I think we've earned a little rest first." Jaxon grinned. "I like the sound of that. How about a celebratory dinner?" "I'd love that," Tessa replied, feeling a sense of happiness and contentment she hadn't felt in a long time. As they walked towards the celebration, hand in hand, Tessa felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey to Elysium had changed them all, but it had also brought them closer together. They had faced incredible challenges, uncovered astonishing secrets, and forged bonds that would last a lifetime. With the stars as their guide and each other for support, Tessa and Jaxon knew that their adventures were far from over. Together, they would continue to push the boundaries of human knowledge, exploring the vast unknown, and ensuring that humanity's legacy would endure among the stars. The end of one journey was just the